Welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. I am Queen Carlenia Springer, and I'm speaking to my Afro Wakanu and Afro Kaitnut African Black family, regardless of where we find ourselves in the world, regardless of our ethnicity. We are one at our roots. We are the mothers and fathers of humanity. I remember having a dream many, many years ago. I was raised a Seventh day Adventist, and in the evening for our services, we would have something called MV, Missionary Volunteers. It was like an evening program and much more relaxed than the church service during the daytime. And so, as young people, we really look forward to that. In this dream, I remember walking from my house to our MV, and it was in the basement. And when I walked in there, there were people sitting in the chairs. I think I went to the bathroom, and it seemed like I can't remember if people were laying on the floor. Everything seemed very heavy and very slow. And on the stage, there were about three or four seats with people in them, and it seemed to me like they were they were all falling into this very deep sleep. And I didn't know what that sleep was about, and I could feel like this heaviness coming over me, like something was causing me to fall asleep. And I remember just trying to go on the stage and wake the people up. And um, I don't remember if I went into the bathroom. It seemed like I was trying to even wake people up there because I just knew they had to get out before it was too late. And even people in the audience, like I got up on the stage and I was talking in the microphone or shouting or something, trying to wake them up. And I could feel like this heavy, deep sleep thing coming over me, what what had happened to them. And I just remember having to run out of that place. And then I have another memory of another dream where I was with my dad. He had a Dodge Green van back in the day, and he used to transport the young people to different functions. But we went to a lady's house to visit, and we went in there and we were talking to them, and I remember her telling me she wanted to show me something. And so she took me downstairs and out the back door, and there was some it was like a graveyard or something, not in her backyard but very close. And so she showed me certain things, and then it was time for me to well, I was ready to come back in. I don't know where she went. It seemed like she was back upstairs, and I was down there by myself. And when I went back in the basement, and when I went to walk up the steps were no longer there. And I remember feeling very scared, but just automatically I just took one jump. And when I took that one jump, I was at the landing, at the top where the stairs would have normally been. And I remember walking in there, and I think I saw her talking to my dad. But then you know how in dreams the scene changes, and it was time for us to go. And so my dad and the kids or whoever was with us, we were going back in the van. My dad was in the driver's seat, and we were driving off, and the windows, I think the windows were rolled down, and the back, or at least the back window was rolled down. And the lady seemed to come out there with a tray of juice for us. And instinctively, I just knew, like, if we drank that juice, we would have we would have either been poisoned, died, or something. Whatever it was, it wasn't good. And I found myself like saying, roll up the window. And it seems as even as she was coming there at the back where the kids were, then somebody was coming to the side of the van, um, tapping on the window in the front seat, trying to give us juice. And we it seems like my dad, we took off in time, so nobody drank that juice. I'm saying this because these are the things that are coming to me. Those dreams just came back to my remembrance back to back. But I want you to think about, some of you may have a job with top security clearance or some level of clearance, and you find out that whatever they're doing at your job, it's not good, and it's going to put people's lives in danger because they actually trust in people and in things that they actually should not trust. But because they don't have access to the information that you have, they don't know that. And they're moving blindly in good faith, literally, towards those who would seek to destroy them. You have been, if you have a clearance, if you have some type of clearance, and you know you have been sworn to secrecy around this information, what would you do if you knew those people were going to come towards your mother, your father, your sister, brother, niece, nephew, your cousins, your grandparents? What would you do? You know that maybe you're being assigned somewhere else, but in the time that you're gone, um, this is when they're going to implement whatever it is they're going to implement to deceive your family, others as well, but your family specifically. And the information is so shocking that even if you told them, they're not going to believe you, and you don't have time to sit there and convince them. Like, you're in a burning house and somebody's in a deep sleep, you don't have time to wake them up gently. You got to shake them, shout at them. They may fight you, whatever, but in order for them to live, you may have to go through a little battle because they're asleep, they're not awake. What would you do if you just had 5-10 minutes even to to transmit to them some information that they would not even believe, just because they lack the information, they lack the awareness, too great a gap in the information that they have. But if you are unable to get this message across to them, it will be a disaster, not only for them but for others as well. Listen, I'm saying that to say this is a situation that many of us find ourselves in today. We believe what we believe with regards to God and our religion. We know nothing, little to nothing, about our own selves and our own culture. And when people in our family, and you always have that one friend that is different from everybody else, or, they reading and researching things that most people around them don't even care about. They'll come and talk to you about it, and you're like, yeah, you'll listen for a little bit, but you brush them off. And yet they're telling you things that you ought to be paying attention to, but because of busyness, what you would consider disinterest, and at the root is a disinterest in your own livelihood and in your own life, because they're bringing you information that will actually open your eyes to certain things designed to deceive you, and you pushing them away as if they're the enemy, and you holding on tight to what you know, and you don't know anything. You don't know anything because you don't know who you are. What would you tell them? What would you tell, like, literally, if you had just a small space of time? For me, because I think about my own children, and what would I tell them? The things I know now, they don't know. They don't know because I didn't know them until later in life. They don't know, and they also wouldn't just be inclined to listen and to believe. But what would you do if you had 5-10 minutes to transmit this information? What I'm doing is that I'm telling you that as Afro-Wakanda and Afro-White Kaitnu people, we have an ancient ancestral wisdom that flows through our veins in real time. I'm talking about communication. I'm talking about communication to the highest levels of order in this universe. Mother, Father, God, and the divine functionaries that operate the whole system of creation that we know as a Bosum, Orisha, Vodou. We're connected to them by blood and soul. So that means we have access to be able to hear them, but they do not operate in disorder. So how do we begin to come into communication? A communication that if I'm trying to communicate something to you and I don't have time to get that information to you, but I know there's something within you that will help you to activate that level of communication if you just begin to do this one thing. And what I would tell you is that it's time for you to know who you are, to become your own best friend, to create a space, a sacred space where you have an altar in your home. See, at your altar, your life becomes altered because there's information and things that you're seeking, knowledge that you're seeking, you're trying so hard to find. And if you sit still long enough, the information will come up through you. It will be revealed to you in real time. But in order for you to attune to that level of communication, there's some noise that has to be stilled. You don't just go out and see somebody and then all of a sudden get into a deep conversation with them. Every now and then that happens, right? But you form a relationship. In our culture, when our family transitions, in our culture, I'm not talking about our enemy's culture. In our culture, we understand that they are on the other side of life. This cross is a symbol of life, of everlasting life. There's life on this side of there's life here on this side, and there's life on the other side. And on this side, we have a purpose, a function. And on that side, we operate with a purpose and a function. Birth and death are gateways between the realms. So we understand that there are different realms in which we operate. And we move from this realm into this realm and back again. So in the Akan tradition, that's called Bebra or reincarnation. But we have been lied to. Oh, you only have one life. So they didn't just steal our language. They stole this life. They want us to, wait till we get to heaven in order to be able to breathe and have a good life. But they live in heaven on earth right now, when many of our people are living in hell. And that's real. No matter how you twist it or whatever, you got to struggle and struggle to survive every single day. And you got people sitting in boardrooms with more than enough money to feed everybody across this planet, with more than enough money for everybody to live in an abundant way. But they're sitting in boardrooms creating 24/7 your destruction and the destruction of people on this planet. No, that's their heaven. That's their heaven. But the other people, babies dying, elders dying, people being hurt, being subjected to all types of evil. But they want you to be afraid of going to hell and focus on going to heaven. God wouldn't have you here to be so focused on being someplace else. There's a reason why you're here. But them taking away the language and taking away the culture and corrupting it and feeding it back to you. If I had something to say to you, it would be go and investigate who you are. But you begin with your own soul. You begin to go into that quiet place religiously. The same way you get up and brush your teeth and wash your face. Religiously, you go into that space. 15, 20 minutes is not a long time when you consider how you struggle through life, many of you. 15, 20 minutes to pay attention to you and to what's going on within your own mind, so that you begin to still the noise of your emotions, because those emotions that are out of control stop us from being able to hear. And there are things that you're praying for, and there are things that you're asking for, and you're being given the information, but the noise is so overwhelming that you cannot hear the inside noise. So even when people are talking to you, you're being triggered because your mind is somewhere else and you can't even give a proper response because your attention is not right here in this space and time. You time traveling from the future to the past, being flung back and forth, wondering what worrying about what has happened and how it's going to affect what's next, or can't get your mind off of this. No, it's time to take our power back. So if I couldn't give you the information, I would tell you to create your altar, your sacred space. Even if you go into nature and you're just there for 15, 20 minutes, you're not trying to do anything. You're not trying to steal the noise. Your ancestors and ancestresses, your spiritually cultivated ancestors and ancestresses have been assigned to help guide you through this life. The Abosom have been assigned to help guide you through this life, and they govern your soul, your divine consciousness. And within them is all of the instructions, everything that you're supposed to do, the way you're supposed to carry it out, the manner in which you're supposed to carry it out in a balanced way, and the energy, the power that you need to execute your function. It is all encapsulated in there, but it's time to still the noise. When you still the noise on the inside, you will begin to notice there's a mirror. You begin to notice that around you, the noise begins to dwindle. Just like throwing a pebble in a pond, it begins to ripple out. When your energy begins to ripple out, you begin to clean and cleanse your energy, because when you go into that space, you're not going in there to just be calm. No, you're going there to learn. It's an active space to learn about who you are, to learn about the truth, even the truth of what you think you believe. Because it's one thing to believe something, it's another thing to not know where you have been lied to. And your open enemy knows exactly what you believe, and it's not a threat. Because that thing you hold so tightly onto, they know the lies. They know they've misdirected you. Because for some of you, what I'm saying is so foreign. Why would your roots be so foreign? Why would our roots be so foreign to us? It's because of the lies and the conditioning. So if it's one thing I would emphasize, is to go and create that space. You create a sacred space within your own mind first, so no one can come and step in and manipulate you knowingly or unknowingly. Because the way people feel about you, their projections affect you, whether you understand that or not. They say we use 10%, if even that, of our own minds. But I promise you that psychiatrists and psychologists have studied our minds to a high degree. They don't have access to this level of communication.